Welcome to the Mustard Seed Media video podcast. My name is Bob, and this is the podcast for Drupal web designers. One of the big modules that's come out in the last couple of years that everybody is really starting to use to move data all over the place and has a ton of possibilities is the feeds module. It's been around for a little while, but now it's really maturing in 7, and I think it's going to be great in 8. It's an awesome way to migrate data, to import data, to use all this data from all over the web, or even files on your computer, to be able to get it into your Drupal site. Really powerful. I'm going to show you the basics of it today. And so let's not waste any time. Let's jump right in. There's feeds module, drupal.org/project/feeds. And it does all kinds of stuff. The stuff that I'm going to show you today is a real basic overview of it. You can see there is a 6th version, which I've used as well. Pretty much operates in exactly the same manner. But this is sort of the follow-up to Feed API and Feed Element Mapper. If you remember in 6, if you used Feed API, you used to have to map the fields using a separate module. All of that is built now right into Feeds, which is great. Another crucial module to go along with this is Feeds Tamper module. And so Feeds Tamper module allows you to take the data from your feed, and before it's created as content, you can mess with it. You can do all kinds of stuff with it, perform operations on it to clean it up or to basically get things ready to use in your content type. I'm going to show you both of those today very quickly. So if we go into our Drupal site, the first thing that I want to show you is the couple of content types that I've created. I did a lot of this stuff beforehand just to save some time. The content types you need to know about are article, feed, and product. So let's look at the basic example first by looking at an article. And I'm just going to look at some fields I got here. I got my title and my body. I've got an article image, which actually I don't think I'm going to use in this example. Tags, which is just your taxonomy, an author field, and a source, which is a link to the original piece of content. So once I've enabled feeds, I'm going to go in and I'm going to go into feeds importers under structure. And I'm just going to create a simple RSS importer here. And so if we look at this, let's go over the settings. And these are generally the same for all types of feeds, but they alter a little bit depending on which parser you use. So if I look at my basic settings, I've just named it. I've given it a little description. Now this attached to content type is an important thing. When do you attach a feed to a content type and when do you not? That's the big question, right? So most of the time, if I'm only going to have one instance of that feed on my site. Let's say it's an event importer from my main event calendar in Google, and I'm only going to ever use that one instance of this, and I usually want it limited to administrators on the site. That's when I'm going to use just this standalone form. What this means is that the module provides a page at just /import, and at this page, it takes all the data and uses that data to import the feed without attaching it to any kind of content type. But what you can also do that I'm going to show you here is you can attach it to a content type. And this allows you to have many different feeds using this same import setting, because for every node you can create, you can attach a different feed to it. And so that's what I'm going to do here is I'm going to attach it to the content type that I created called feed. So if we go back and look at that content type, there's nothing at all special about it. All I'm doing is designating it as my content type. All I have is I have a title. This feed field is actually added by feeds module. I didn't add that. And then there's a body. So this is a default content type right now with this data on it. So if I go back to my importer, I'm going to attach it to the feed. Periodic import. This is going to go out and it's going to fetch every 30 minutes, every hour, every 6 hours, every day, whatever. And it's going to update the feed and update all of the content that was pulled in. You can see import on submission. I'm going to uncheck that for right now. And you can process in the background if there's a lot of items that it needs to process. It can be handled in the background instead of on the front end. So then the next thing we have is the fetcher. How are we going to get this data? And in my case, I'm going to get it from an HTTP request. I'm just going to put in a URL. It's going to go out and it's going to fetch it. You could also choose file upload and upload files this way. And then you have settings for your fetcher. I'm not going to mess with those. The parser, this is the big deal here. There's a lot of parsers out there, and really this says, how am I going to handle this data when it comes in? And for most standard RSS feeds and stuff like that, you're just going to use the common syndication parser, which comes with feeds. But there's other parsers that you can download, such as a JSON path parser, which I actually use quite a bit. There's a Facebook parser out there to parse Facebook data. It's pretty cool. You can use the CSV parser, and I'll show that in a second. But you have all of these methods for bringing it in. In this, what you choose for your parser changes the rest of the settings that we're going to look at from here on down. There are no settings for just the common parser. And the processor, this is what are we going to do with the data once it comes in? Are we going to create nodes? Are we going to create taxonomy terms? Are we going to create users? What are we going to do? So I'm going to create nodes. I'm going to create nodes from all of the items in the feed. And then if I go to my node parser, since I chose that, I'm going to say, how is this going to deal with this data when it's pulled in? So one of the things this does is this will update nodes. So if an article changes on the source out on the web somewhere, and then every 30 minutes we call in and check, what's going to happen if that node is changed? We're going to say don't update anything, just leave stuff as it is. We can replace existing nodes. This is going to mean a new node ID. It's going to recreate the node. And we can also update existing nodes. Usually, unless you have a specific reason, like maybe people on the site are editing the content once you've brought it in, you usually want to replace the existing node. You want to just create a new one. But if you're dealing with the content on site, you're massaging it, you're doing things with it, you may want to update the node. Just note that it's a little bit slower. And I'm going to talk about this unique target thing in a second. When we pull in data into text areas, what should the input format of the body be? And that's you can set that there. Now, what kind of content are we creating from our feed here? I'm creating articles. This is where you map which kind of content is going to be created from your feed items. You can set a default author here. Expire nodes, though they can be deleted. So we can say every day delete all the nodes that were from yesterday. That just sort of saves on how many nodes you keep on site and stuff like that. So once you have all that set, now we go to mapping. This is the cool part. This is the feed element mapper stuff from before. I've already set this up, but when you use an RSS feed, RSS feeds have typical tags or sections in the feed that we can map to certain things. So the feeds processor, when you pull in using the common syndicated parser, it knows that feeds contain an author, they contain categories, they contain a description, they contain all of this other stuff. Publish date, title. And so what you do is you're going to just choose one of those and you're going to map it to a field. So since I chose article as my content type, it recognizes all the article fields that I can map it to. And so one of the things that I created was just a text field called author, and I can map it right to author. I hit add, and now when that feed comes in, the author tag in the feed is going to map to the author field in the content type. Now I'm going to remove that because I already have it. The one very important thing I want to show here is having a unique target. When you're going to update nodes, how does Drupal know which node goes to which feed item? You have to map a unique target. Now RSS feeds by default have a item GUID, and you don't actually ever really see that anywhere. And so you can see I mapped it to our target GUID. And so, and then I check the unique box. This is very important, or your nodes won't update. They won't update properly. So make sure you have something unique. Sometimes it can be a column that has unique data in it. Make sure whatever you choose is unique to the piece of content that you're importing, and there isn't another one with that data. So worst comes to worst, if you don't have a unique item, you can fall back to using title as your unique item. There could be two things with the same title, so you're running a risk there, but if you got nothing else, that's what you got. So once we do all that, now I can go create a feed item, and if you remember, it was going to be mapped to this content type, so I'm creating a piece of content, and I'm going to pull in a Disney feed here, and I can put in my description, whatever that happens to be, and I'm going to save it. Now, if I would have checked the box that said import on submission, right then it would have gone out and grabbed the feed items, but it didn't. Instead, I get all these tabs, view and edit, standard node tabs, but then I also have import, delete items, unlock tabs. These are feeds tabs. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to import these items. And it's going to just pull in nodes. Very cool. Now, you'll notice that by default, nothing shows here. You can build a view very simply with an argument for the parent node ID, the feed parent node ID, and place your block or your attachment or whatever from views onto this page. Use the node ID that you're viewing as your argument, and you're good to go. And you can show all your feed items on this page. But if we go look at these items, we can simply see that they pulled in, very simple. They just pulled in all the data, and there's really not much to it because it's just a title and a body, and that's it. Pretty standard stuff, right? That's just RSS. You're pulling it in. You're creating nodes. They'll update. Whatever. What if we want to do something cooler? What if we want to do something like pull in a CSV file that's out on the web and have it update nodes? Now, this is kind of a cool thing that I've done on a couple of sites lately where the site owner actually wants their people to manage the content from the site in Google Docs. So in Google Docs, they have spreadsheets that contain all the data that they're importing. And the person just imports the Google Doc. They imports the spreadsheet. And then our feeds setup goes out, parses that spreadsheet as a CSV. JSON's actually almost a better way to do this, because Google Docs offers that. But if we just have a CSV, it can go out, parse the CSV, update the content, good to go. That is all for now. Thanks for joining us on the Mustard Seed Media Video Podcast. Visit it, mustardseedmedia.com/podcast. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter there. You can see our premium products that are on the sidebar that you can purchase. And we still always take chip-ins. If you want to throw a little money to encourage future episodes, we'd appreciate that as well. That is all. We'll see you next time on the Mustard Seed Media Video Podcast.